account and the company page?
Well, first, mine was taken down because we have all the election fraud with these Dominion machines. We have 100% proof. And then when they took it down about 3 weeks ago, and then when I put it back up, my personal, it was a
Mike, thank you very much. Mike, you're talking about machines that we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those kinds of allegations. We just want to let people know that there's nothing substantive that we've seen. And let me read you something there. While there were some clear evidence of some cases of vote fraud and election irregularities, the election results in every state were certified, and Newsmax accepts the results as legal and final. The courts have also supported that view. So we wanted to talk to you about canceling culture, if you will. We don't want to relitigate the allegations that you're making, Mike, because we understand where you are. So let me ask you this. Do you think that this should be temporary because it appears to be permanent? Could you make an argument that it is temporary?
What?
Could you make an argument that this could be a temporary banning rather than permanent?
No, I want it to be a permanent because you know what? They did this because I'm revealing all the evidence on Friday of all the election fraud with these machines. So I'm sorry if you think it's not
Mike,
it's real.
Can I ask our producers, can we get out of here, please? I don't want to have to keep going over this.
Actually,
we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those allegations that you're...
Mike, hold on a second. Everybody hold on a second. Mike, hold on 1 second. Let's talk a little bit about just what is happening overall in terms of censorship of...
Trying to cancel out my company and myself. In this country, it's cancel culture. All
right, welcome back to the show, everybody. I just felt like showing that because it's fucking hilarious. So yeah, welcome back to the show. Cannaheads ND, your once a week podcast for latest in cannabis, local and national news every Sunday. Starting around the time that we get here, we just kind of had a couple of issues, so it's all good now. So typically we go for about an hour to an hour and a half. We have a couple of things that we want to talk about. But we'll get a little bit more into it here a little bit. But my name is Phil. Here, this way. You're muted out. What? Why? Oh, there we go. The mute button helps. Yeah, so... Right? Yeah, honestly, how long has it been? I don't even want to look. 3 weeks? Yeah, and then I did that one where we talked about 1/4/20, which we'll get into that one. There was a hearing on Wednesday, and yeah, we're gonna go into that one. But if you like the newsy type shows, be sure to listen to KFF Radio Free Fargo on 95.9 on Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. with Greg Wilson. Yeah, so I think a lot of people, well, let's just get into the lighter stuff first. Schumer held a meeting for legalization, to do a federal legalization, which is going to be a huge problem for the next story. But for right now, Senator Majority Chuck Schumer is the Senate Finance Committee chairperson, Ron Wyden, and Cory Booker we're planning on unveiling a draft on a legalization bill in the early part of this year. So it's probably going to be mid, because we got the God, what's the word? Impeachment hearing. That one. We got the impeachment hearing, and then we got the well, that already passed Senate, but we also got the stimulus bill. So I'm guessing we'd probably see it mid-year. I'm more than likely we'll probably see it in Q2, like towards the end of Q2. One commitment from the start, they said, according to the attendees, is the Senate bill will, at a minimum, deschedule cannabis and also seek to regulate it with a justice and equity-focused approach. Booker is expected to lead the sponsorship of the legislation when it's filed. Booker's been pretty easygoing about the subject. Obviously, I don't think he smokes, but yeah, Booker's been pretty cool. And I think that was one of his platforms, was when he was running for president. When all the Democrats were running for president, like literally every single one of them, that was one of his like mainstays. There was cannabis legalization, so it's in good hands. They were also, the participants in the meeting addressed areas where they felt the MORE Act needs to be more improved. So they took issues with excluding cannabis convictions. The MORE Act is more of for the banking regulations, but it also will be covering, they're hoping this bill will be more covering of the convictions, because with people who have had it in the past, usually the ones, that have been in the industry, even though their industry is illegal, they're usually the ones that are most knowledgeable about different aspects, from running the business to the finances and everything like that. People with convictions in most states can't get a permit, so a federal permit would be put into place, and prior cannabis convictions hopefully will not be a limiting factor in the permit. Schumer did press Biden's attorney general and the Justice Department nominees to respect the rights of states. So this meeting was just really hopeful for legalization, so that's a good thing. We'll probably see a little bit more about this, but more than likely mid-year is probably when the actual conversation will occur. And the reason why it's the most important thing when it comes to Idaho is Idaho passed by the way, for the first time in Cannaheads history, we are not using marijuana moment for this story, because this one was a little bit more in depth. But Idaho Senate approved a measure on Wednesday that would, in the state's constitution, prevent the legalization of marijuana and other drugs not approved by the federal government. So that's a very big problem for the people who are trying to pass this amendment to the state constitution. So I don't know what their plans are for that, but hopefully they have it. All right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and I think what what's really helpful is because with states legalizing, the biggest issue is, well, it's federally still illegal, so technically, I think we saw it. I forgot the dude's name. Trump's like first attorney general, or maybe it was the second, with the memo of being like, you can take federal money and investigate states. Yeah, I forgot his name, but yeah. So I think the biggest issue that states have had when it comes to legalizing is the state can be legal, but the federal government can still kind of step in and create problems. I think there's been a lot of tests of the states between the federal government and state when it comes to just cannabis alone. That kind of makes state legalization kind of stand its ground and actually have footing. But at the same time, if it goes federally descheduled or, even rescheduled, Jeff Sessions, yes, that was the one. Jeff Sessions had basically sent out a memo to federal law enforcement, essentially saying, if you would like to investigate states sellers, like people who are selling a dispensary and everything like that, you can use federal money for it. And that was just kind of like a hint, nudge type of a thing. And we didn't really see that many issues come from that where they kind of did do that. But at the same time, it was on the back of everybody's mind of like, this could be a thing that happens. States, when it first started with, like in California, when it became medicinal, there was basically, it's not like a union, but it was like a organization that if you did open up a dispensary, you would take some of your money that you would make from that dispensary and put it to the side into this union or this organization, essentially. And if you ended up getting raided by feds, you had basically bail money and money to fight the case. So if it went federally descheduled, it would really help kind of stop that. But at the same time, I mean, it could be brought back. It would be a lot of work to bring it. It would probably, and this might be actually a really good question to ask anybody who would know something like this. How much effort, if it gets descheduled, would it be the same amount of effort to reschedule it than it has been to deschedule it? Like, kind of something happens in a positive, would it be the same amount of effort? Because if it is the same amount of effort, if it takes a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, a Democratic president to do that, it's pretty rare to have happen. And right now, it's just kind of like a huge breather when it comes to marijuana legalization. Maybe in other issues for everybody else's topics and issues that they look at might not be a big breather, but in this circumstance, it's a huge breather. And yeah, and it's not cheap either. And that's another thing, is it would cost, when it comes to even cost, like when I'm saying effort, I'm talking about the actual cost to rescheduling it, I guess. And even if it does get rescheduled, I don't see it being Schedule 1, because like that argument of has no medicinal value really goes out the window when the majority of states at least have a medicinal system. So it really goes out the window there. But so it might go Schedule 3, I guess. Is that where opiates are? Pretty sure that's where opiates sit. That's medicinal value, but highly abusive or something. Either way, it's not really abusive, so how would you make that argument? Like, you don't see people like... Yeah, I don't know. That's a very interesting topic, but like the fact that if this is like, when I first read this, I was like, well, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. They basically were won over the 2/3 majority in Idaho. So this is just Idaho affected, not federal. That would be really weird. But it was a vote of 24-11, which was in a Republican-controlled Senate. The guy, the sponsor of the legislation, senators, we have a duty to protect our children, our families, our communities from the scourge of drugs and drug culture, which we have seen go across this nation. And the wording of drug and drug culture is really where that's probably what put people over to the yes. If you said the scourge of cannabis and cannabis culture, that would probably have not really flown. It's a very broad definition that they're using as well. What is it? Other drugs not approved. I'm trying to, well, I have the actual legislation right here. Or use of psychoactive drugs in the state of Idaho. Psychoactive drugs could be literally, it's basically anything that like changes your mindset. So like the fact that they're using that terminology and not cannabis, where we can obviously tell based on what he was saying, the scourge of drugs and drug culture, and then throwing it across the nation, he very obviously meant cannabis. Yeah, he then went and characterized Idaho as the last foxhole surrounded by neighbors with some form of legalized marijuana. That's where that kind of gave that away. And the thing about that as well is everything around the state is legalized. So essentially what this is going to do is people are just going to drive to other states, pick up, and drive back. That's a federal issue, but at the same time, essentially what this does is pretty much prove the point of, what's the word? I cannot talk today. I can't talk ever, though. Of prohibition. It kind of proves the whole prohibition doesn't work. Because essentially, people are just going to be like, okay, well, then I just will go somewhere else and pick it up. On top of that, what it's going to do in the local communities is the price of cannabis is going to go through the roof. Because now it's like, yeah. And the fact that not approved by the Food and Drug Administration, that could technically even be down to hemp. You could even possibly make the argument for CBD. Now, it's in the Farm Bill, so it's technically federally legal, so that wouldn't count, but it's not approved by the Food and Drug Administration, and hopefully that changes. I think there was talk about it changing as well, but like, this is one very, very, very broad swoop that I feel is just more of desperate measure and desperate act than it is to actually want something to have happen. It doesn't make sense to me how they're going for it in the federal government when they know full well that it's going to be legalized. Yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah, essentially. And the other thing is sometimes I wonder when people when people in legislative sessions and everything like that kind of throw in the whole, I'm going to do something. Sometimes I think that they don't know the process and they haven't looked it up. Like, I don't know the process of every single thing. But I have the forethought to look it up. And you're talking about a constitutional amendment, so you're doing something to the Constitution, so you should probably look at the Constitution for how to do this, right? So there's this weird document that's in like every single state and in the entire country. They have some form of it or another. We call it the Constitution, but it's just a document, that a lot of people look to when it comes to how to do things. And so this is the Constitution in Idaho, or at least the amendments of it pertaining to this specific thing. So Section 3, you would need 2/3 of a majority. So that means literally they had 24-11, so quite literally anybody can change their mind, and this would go sideways. So quite literally anybody. Section 4 then goes on to say if they do have a 2/3 majority, so it has to be 2/3 majority in House and Senate, but if they do have 2/3 majority, they would also have to bring it to the people, so it would go on the ballot, and the ballot that it would go on to would be the next general election, so that's 2022. And so yeah, and then there's a really weird one, but at the same time I kind of found it funny. Where is this one? Maybe it's in this one. Yeah. And it shall be the duty of the legislator to submit such amendment or amendments to the electors of the state at the next general election, and cause the same to be published without delay for at least 3 times in every newspaper qualified to publish legal notices as provided by law. Said publication shall provide the arguments proposing and opposing said amendment or amendments as provided by law, and if the majority shall ratify with the same, such amendment or shall become part of the Constitution. So they have to take an ad out in the newspaper, which is such a weird thing. Like, this is in a lot of states. I think it's when you I'm pretty sure this is in North Dakota. If you plan on if you're a bank and you plan on repoing a house or something or a car, they have to put it in the newspaper, like a legal notice. The idea of it, I'm pretty sure, if this has been explained to me before, I just don't remember it specifically, but that back in the old days, not everybody had a mailbox, so there was no way to serve paper or do anything like that, but everybody had the newspaper, so you would publish it in the newspaper or something, but I guess that's just the thing. But yeah, so they have to figure out the proposing and opposing measures, or opposing and opposing arguments. So I'm wondering who gets to think of the opposing arguments, because I feel like that's pretty easy to do. Federal government, with it kind of doing that by the time that this is on a ballot, the decision of if it would be descheduled would have been made. So that's an argument. Yeah, and then another one that I found funny with it too is another argument is whenever anybody, like in North Dakota when we were doing ND Freedom, the biggest argument, and this was also the same thing in Senate Resolution 4001, it's our Constitution. They're attacking our Constitution. They're trying to change our Constitution. This is a document that's been in the state since it got ratified and all of that stuff. So a lot of people see the Constitution as like a lot of people see law, but then they see it higher is the Constitution. So they hold it even more dearly. So that argument can be made as well, that like, why do you need a change in the Constitution? Like, why don't you go, not the Constitution, and put it into your laws. But that would make it a lot easier for a legalization. People who would want it legalized to just go constitutional. So that's kind of the reason why. But like, that argument will be made, and I'm 100% sure that if this does end up, it's a Republican-controlled House as well, so it's probably going to end up on a ballot. If it gets up onto a ballot, it's probably not going to be anything. It's going to be useless, and a whole bunch of time and money would have been wasted. And this is the thing as well, thing that I noticed. If you really want to, like, really go hardcore constitutionalist, Section 24, Article 3 of the Constitution of the State of Idaho affirms that the first concern of all good government is the virtue and sobriety of the people. Like, this is literally taking it on a very literal basis. And, like, these points, and this is another thing that I noticed as well, is all of these points were actually made in a documentary that was made in Idaho called Drug Free Idaho. Or they're a 401c3. They're like a, I guess I don't have the link up. Let me just put that up. There it is. Yeah, you can see I've Googled it a lot. So these people, they're not a PAC. They're an organization. They're a nonprofit organization that works to create a drug-free culture in our workplaces, schools, communities. They talk about workplace drug testing, and how they will assist you in these testings. Workers come, like, what their cost of substance abuse. They really are people who do not like drugs of any sort. I can understand that, but what they really focused on was this documentary, which was like an hour long. And at one point, I actually really did want to sit down and actually, like, review it, because it's really one of the things that I find hilarious when it comes to political videos is when they use very dramatic music over very like plain and not really punchy arguments to make it seem like what that person said, like, really is, like, super deep. Here's a
lose IQ points.
Shit, that was loud. I'm sorry. So yeah, this was a documentary that they made. This was during Prop 2. There was a prop for legalize. I don't know which one exactly it is, but yeah, they made a documentary. It's 36 minutes long. It holds a lot of B-roll. It has the whole documentary lens flare to it. You got the super blurry background with the super intact focus person, with, like, professional equipment. Essentially what they did was they spent good, like, that kind of those kinds of shots, just a whole bunch of B-roll with really dramatic music, and a lot of statements where they were talking about how legalization ruins societies, and essentially a lot of the points that they had in this video is kind of what he went with here. You can also look at people's finances if they're political figures and, running for election and stuff like that. They don't have any connections that I can tell. So I want to make sure that's very clear. But yeah, it's a little bit interesting. Just kind of the fact that they had all these points. So yeah, that's Idaho for you. I don't know. Like, I feel like if they were trying to, like, I don't know, what's the history of Idaho and marijuana? Let's see. Idaho. Like, how many attempts has there actually been? Idaho. Of course. Oh, cannabis in Idaho. There we go. You gotta love Wikipedia. They really do. Yep. So there was Senate Bill 1146 would have legalized CBD for all persons with severe epilepsy. Following lengthy and emotional hearings. Of course, there's lengthy and emotional hearings. That's literally, I think, a decision is going to be made when there's a very, like, super lengthy hearing that a lot of people go to. I've seen it with Kratom a lot. But yeah, it was vetoed by the governor. So this was a CBD one. But ballot initiatives failed in 2012, 2014 due to insufficient signatures. 2016 was withdrawn before the signatures could have been counted. So we're just going to call that insignificant or insufficient amount of signatures. 2018 had it drawn when its organizer had to quit to care for her ailing son. That's crazy, to be honest. But yeah, so like in 2013, the Idaho legislature preemptively approved a statement for their opposition to ever legalizing cannabis. They really don't like it, guys, okay? Oh, I should probably be showing the Wikipedia. They've Idaho outlawed the drug in 1927. On the same period, the mayor of Boise noted his concerns. Some racist shit. All right. Yeah. The Idaho Attorney General in a report, clarified that in 2015 that CBD containing 0% THC is permissible as long as it is not derived from one of the 5 identified non-flower parts of the cannabis plant. Do they not know that you can remove, like, you can extract without THC now? Isolate is a thing. Anyway, so yeah. And that's the thing too, is like the part that says the first concern of all good government is the virtue and sobriety of the people. That's probably something that came from when alcohol was illegal. This is probably where that came from. So yeah, it's interesting how they did this. It's probably not gonna pass. A lot of people have been taking the whole, like, this is a death sentence for Idaho's legalization. If anything, it's a battle, but it's a very winnable battle. And I'm hoping that, the people or Normal, especially, is one of them, really kind of is able to fight it through. This is a thing that they do. And I think the biggest factor when it comes to legalization is the drug testing. So if you corner into the drug testing and you, like, attack that aspect of it, just showing how many people end up showing positive and are fairly good for society. Yeah, you can receive a 5% credit on your workers' compensation insurance for having a drug-free workplace program in effect. No shit. Anyway, so yeah. So on Wednesday, 420 or 1/4/20, we're just gonna call it 420 now. They had a committee hearing, and that was the House Human Services hearing. A bunch of people showed up to this. I actually did download the video, and luckily YouTube finally got its ass into gear and actually processed it, so we can look at that as well. But there's also the written testimony. Yeah, so Legalize ND wasn't in attendance from what I can see, or at least did not put in a testimony. Even like if you have a testimony and you didn't really write it out, it would just end up looking like, I think, no, this is an actual one. Trying to think who. There was one where it was just like, informal. No, it was this one. Yeah, informal testimony. This is a guy who thought he was in South Dakota apparently and ended up stumbling into North Dakota. I'm not really sure what this is. Why South Dakota House of Representatives representative for South Dakota District 34. They have their own problems. They should probably deal with that issue, considering the fact that if everything goes as planned, South Dakota will be legalized. I hope. I really hope they don't. I don't know. At this point, South Dakota can really just. It has to happen. But if it's anything that we've seen with just laws in general, there's always a way to change things, and if that happens, that'll be a very interesting story to listen to. But yeah, there was a lot in favor. That was the thing that I noticed. There's a lot in favor, very little in opposition. You can kind of see where they stand. A couple neutrals, but there was 5 in opposition, and the rest in favor or neutral. So yeah, I think one thing that I really kind of wanted to state here, doesn't look like Legalize ND or anybody formally representing Legalize ND showed up. So that kind of sucks, but considering the fact that most of their bill is, or most of their measure is in this bill, it would make sense to really have to say much. I think that's what you wanted. Oh, I keep forgetting not to show it. There we go. Okay. So yeah, we can. So the guy who sponsored it he didn't have to write a testimony for it. He just kind of introduced it. But Jody from North Dakota Freedom Cannabis Act has a neutral view on it, and I kind of just wanted to go through it. Before we get into it, I really do want to say one huge thing that's different from last run to this run is the arguments are actually being made. There's an actual study that is actually backing up the argument. Not in all cases, but in a lot of cases. So yeah, we can kind of read through it. Jody Vetter, chair of ND Freedom of Cannabis Act, approved circulation, 600 petitions out. Of course, she's in for legalization, but there are areas of concern. We really need to move past the thought that somehow possessing cannabis is a criminal act. Sorry, I'm just going to try to fix the zoom so everybody can see it very well. Based on the amounts of possession. Yeah, okay. Based on amounts of possession, why are there still criminal charges for possession? How is possessing 1 ounce of cannabis not a crime, but possessing 2 ounces of cannabis is a Class B misdemeanor? Yes, that would be like a D-crim look at it. The other flip, I guess I'll just make the other flip of the coin there. I believe the reason why they wanted to do a 1 ounce of cannabis and not 2 ounces is more of a sales issue rather than a possession issue. It would have been nice if they did kind of split those up, but I think what they wanted to do was to not have the ability for somebody to go in and buy like a pound. I think they wanted to just kind of limit that. At the same time, there's no such limit for alcohol, like, or at least not that I know of. Can you go in and buy, like, is there a limit for alcohol for how much you can buy? I know there's none for cigarettes. Like, you can buy a pallet of cigarettes if you really have the money for it. But, like, I think that was the reasoning behind it. On top of that, I think there might be a thing to say of possessing 2 ounces of cannabis could possibly kind of cross into sales versus possession. And at the same time, I know that's a very stupid explanation as to why, but at that point, they would know that, you know, first of all, why are you walking around with 2 ounces of pot? Let me just put that to the side there. I've seen people get jumped for less, but it's a little bit more. And yeah, so, like, just keep it in your house, considering the fact that, like, it's kind of the only way they can use it with this bill is on your property. So technically it could be inside your car, but you can't drive that car, so you kind of have to do it in your house. You know, it would have been also a nice thing to have in your house is be able to grow, but that's beyond the fact. But yeah, so possessing 2 ounces of cannabis be a Class B misdemeanor. The federal government is taking seriously of finally moving forward with just decriminalizing cannabis by ending federal prohibition on the plant. And that's I think, another reason why they actually felt like this was the time, even though that could have been, like, forever ago would have been the time. But at the same time, that's probably the reason why. Is if it becomes federally descheduled, a lot of states' laws are going to have to change, obviously. And there's going to be a lot of pressure for that to happen. This is just kind of being one step ahead. And by one step, I mean probably like half a step, because by the time that this, like, is put into place, the decision would have been made federally. Yeah, like, a lot of the states that are doing this right now, or having some sort of conversation about it, are a little late. But, like, they would have to say beginning of the next year, and that would be probably what it would be federally. If it's a 1 day later, there's probably an issue there. So, yeah, moving forward, decriminalizing by ending federal prohibition of the plant. I urge you to amend the criminal charges for possession to civil penalties. I agree. I think it should be civil penalties. And even then, civil penalties would just be kind of, what would the civil penalty be? A fine? That still would technically, like, hurt the person. Like, I mean, $50 or whatever is still $50. But yeah, criminal charges for possession. I feel like this is also, again, for, like, to stop people from selling to underage minors. And another thing is possessing 2 ounces of cannabis. Like, again, I'm not saying this is what I'm planning on doing, but, like, if there's a 1 ounce limit, what's to stop me from going to another dispensary? Or if there's none in my area, then going the next day, if I wanted to stockpile it. So, like, I feel like, yes, I feel like making it a criminal charge is probably not the smart way, and maybe there should be a framework for how to, like, investigate the reason for somebody having 2 ounces, but at the same time, that would still be a criminal, like, scope. So they really didn't have many options. A civil penalty, again, what would the civil penalty be? A fine. Okay, but, like, that's still gonna hurt the person. That's just all I have to say about it. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Yeah. And not to mention civil charges or civil penalties you can also still look up. I mean, this won't stop an employer from because it would be I think a civil penalty. Like, you can see how much people have if they got in a speeding ticket before. So, like, what's that gonna stop an employer from looking at in the first place? Actually, anybody can do that. Just look up the Supreme Court public records of your state and search up the name, and you can know everything you need to know about them. Well, to the point. One amendment I just want to say, mid last year, there was a bill, or I think it was a rule in court, where you could actually look up discoveries of people, and those discoveries were not very well, what's it called? Public or private information was still visible on those documents. That issue has been resolved. There's none of that going on, by the way. So that's good. That's a move forward for that type of idea. Literally, like, there was one person quite literally had their social security number just for anybody to search up. Yeah, I think I remember talking about it. No, you can't. They like got rid of it. I feel like they probably were just like, this was a good idea until we fucked up. In theory. Yes. Yeah, like social security numbers, people's, like, I mean, their addresses were public in the first place, but like people's mailing addresses are different from their physical addresses in some cases, and that was public. There's rules for like domestic abuse survivors. That's like kind of more privatized data, and that was a significant factor in that decision, but it wasn't really being, like, you couldn't find the court case, or you couldn't get the complaint of the court case of like a domestic abuse situation, but you could get the pictures. Yeah, it was bad, but you can still find people's civil charges and all of that stuff through the courts. So, like, this is still going to affect somebody's life. That's the thing. So, yeah. I believe criminal charges for cannabis possession is morally wrong. That's not an argument. It's just a statement. Okay. I have provided an essay from the Indiana Law Journal at Indiana University titled Liberty Lost, the Moral Cause for Marijuana Law Reform. Would be great and all, but that doesn't really affect North Dakota. The laws that they were covering were Indiana's legalization law, or cannabis laws. At the same time, could have made it stick more if you kind of attached it to what's going on in North Dakota for each of the topics of it. You kind of did. The essay addresses whether cannabis criminal laws diminish fundamental individual rights, whether there are grounds that justify doing so. That's a morality topic. When talking about morals, nobody has the same morals as other people. Saying something is morally wrong could mean that something is morally right for somebody else. It's kind of I wish everybody had the same, like, stances on moral issues. Unfortunately, that's essentially never gonna happen. But yeah, so morality is flexible. I forgot how I explained it when I kind of like went in on it, but yeah. Yeah. The authors present two arguments corresponding to two distinct liberty concerns implied by laws in both that both ban cannabis use and punish its users. Opposes criminalization and demonstrates that cannabis use does not establish the right or the kind of wrongful conduct that is requirement of just punishment. Very much agree. Like, I don't really, okay, I know people who all they do is smoke and work, but I do know that that's very much different than people who snort meth and work. That there's a very, very big difference. The people who snort meth and work usually need said meth, and the people who smoke and work just get bored, they can't smoke. So, like, okay, that is correct. The requirement for punishment is a little bit different there. But the second argument demonstrates that even without criminal penalties, prohibition of cannabis violates a moral right to exercise autonomy in personal matters. Again, morality is, yeah. This is where home cultivation rights come up. Okay, I was told there is very little appetite for home cultivation from legislators, but I can tell you, having traveled across the state and spoke with several thousand people, there is a large appetite for home cultivation from North Dakotans. This is a decent one. A better argument would have been just let's look at Fargo during COVID-19. A dispensary had shut down, or, well, a dispensary owned by a New York company made a broad decision that all their locations will be closed down. I'm pretty sure this was Fargo. Yeah, I'm 100% sure it's Fargo because I know some people that, like, I knew from Fargo going to Grand Forks. So they had to drive in the middle of a pandemic to Grand Forks. And, I mean, yeah, that was the thing that they had to do. That would have been a little bit of a better argument. North Dakotans love freedom, personal growing of cannabis included. Yes, North Dakotans do love freedom. Just, yeah. I think everybody likes freedom, but yeah. I find it very hypocritical that there is no problem with me running around with a concealed gun, but it's dangerous to grow a medicinal plant with no possibility of death by overconsumption. That's dramatic. I feel like that probably woke some people up. I don't know. What do you think? Holy shit, I didn't even know there were people in there. Yeah. There's used to be a chat thing on my stream, and I do not know what happened to it. It's in, like, all the wrong colors, too. I believe cannabis laws are unconstitutional. I agree with you completely. At the same time, I feel like unconstitutional would be an argument, but I feel like legislative, like, century code should have some sort of framework. Like, I think there should be some sort of laws regarding, you know, underage, just like alcohol, underage consumption. You know, there's no limits. There should be no limits for how much if you can buy yourself a kilo, have at it. That's all I gotta say. But, like, the taxation, all of that stuff, that would have to be done in a law of some form. It wouldn't be constitutional law, but it would be century code, essentially, in North Dakota. Well, okay, here she said, or I don't know if it's a he or she, but I disagree. Rick Sampson thinks there should be no regulations. We are fine for thousands of years. Yes, Rick Sampson oil and that entire issue, that entire point there. At the same time, when it comes to things that in what? Our audio cut out. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, your thingies are going up. My thingies are going up. I feel like when it comes to why is this like why did this just blow up to ginormous levels? There we go. It's supposed to like yeah, and it just is just whatever. It's gonna be on my face. I don't care. Okay, so I feel like when it comes to regulations, if we don't have regulations, it would make it a very easy argument for people to be like, this is why we need regulations. It will probably, it would have to be very lax regulations. I would agree with lax regulations. I wouldn't agree with none in the aspect of because people are inherently going to try to take advantage of it or try to take advantage of other people's circumstances and situations, that they're going to try to get the upper hand or try to like corner the market in some form, that those types of regulations should be in place. And that's kind of what most of everything in financial sectors even the argument could be made that yes, those regulations are kind of just in the way of people, but corporations, in a large sense, really like to take advantage of no regulations, essentially. So, yeah, I think that might be something that we could disagree on, and it would actually, to be honest, I don't know if you, let's see. Yeah. Yeah. $21, or would you say none, or like 18 or 16? I guess you could go with that too. Right. Yeah. But what about with parent consent? like, I know a lot of people that are like, I'll let my son or daughter drink. I feel like smoke, I mean, it would be healthier than drinking. It's all good. I I can. I honestly, yeah, chats are fun. Like, okay, so I feel like if we were to say the age of adulthood, we would have to have proof that even alcohol as well, that alcohol diminishes people's mental capacity afterwards. Like during it, obviously like lowers inhibitions and all of that stuff. That same proof would also have to be done for cannabis. You know what I mean? And right. Yeah. No, it's going up and down. I don't know. I'm hoping it. Do I have? I better not have it still on. Nope, there's nothing. There's no filters. Okay. I thought I had like a noise gate on you and whatever. I don't know. Oh yeah, I very. And then the thingies are up and down. Like I have. Oh, I can show this. I have like a thingy that tells me like when things are being talked about. Like I can hear like this is me and this is Anthony's audio. We can kind of go through it there. I don't know. Hopefully it gets better. But yeah, I think that if there was a limitation, or if there was no, we can see this as well. The biggest one. This is my biggest one that I know about. Oh, there we go. My biggest one is we see internet service providers. It depends on where you are, but if you're in, for instance, actually everywhere you are, there are two choices you usually have, maybe three. You have cable, whoever your cable provider is in your area, you have no choice on who that is. DSL, so whoever the phone provider in that area is, you have no choice in that fact. And satellite, you have multiple choices, but it's a shitty experience throughout the entire time. The reason why that is a thing is cable providers will talk to surrounding cable companies in their area and say, do not encroach on our area and we will not encroach on your area. The reason why it makes sense for the little guy to not encroach on the big guy is because the big guy has a whole shitload of money. The big guy is usually Comcast. And if they respect it, yeah. And if they respect it, then they don't go into, then Comcast doesn't take over their area. Because usually the small guy needs the big guy's help, but also does have other choices in who that big guy is when it comes down to like level 2 and level 1 routing. So they can actually pick who their bandwidth mix is going to be. The reason why that has been a thing and that a lot of people are like, I'm not going to touch that type of area when it comes to laws regarding what Comcast can and can't do, is because if they piss off Comcast, they could technically, if they really wanted to, attempt to essentially buy out all the small guys and then kind of be national, as long as they have some sort of competition, and that competition would be DSL. So like they technically could do that. The only thing that stops that is regulation from essentially Comcast, that Comcast would in a heartbeat support dropping that regulation. And the reason why they give Comcast, like, especially when it comes to their reporting of numbers and who has access to high-speed internet and people who have access to reliable internet, is because they self-report it. And that's the reason why that regulation is essentially band-aided on. When it comes to regulations for cannabis, for instance, as well, it would stop no one, because there are big, I guess we can call it big cannabis, that owns a lot of grow companies and is just basically the management and the funding for a bunch of grow operations in the country. If we didn't have any form of regulation when it comes to cannabis grows, what's to stop them from being like, we're gonna buy everybody out, and a gram is gonna be $100. There's nothing stopping that. So when it comes to regulation in cannabis, there has to be some form or another of regulation. Whether how deep that regulation goes, that's the conversation there. So you can go deep conversation into the age restriction, the taxation, and all of that stuff, but when it comes to taxation, when it comes to the monetary aspect, regulations do make it so that you can't home grow to an extent. The regulation doesn't really exist, but it does make certain laws have been passed to kind of be like, if you are a grower, you're also going to be the dispensary owner. You have to own everything from the grow to the dispensary. So the processing, the packaging, the testing, all of that has to be done in order to actually get a grow license. But that regulation is very anti-competitive, but it's not across the board. So like some states have it. I believe it was New Jersey is supporting into it. I think Washington, or maybe it was Canada that really like pushed it hard, and that's a thing. Yeah, you can't gift it in Illinois, but the T-shirt loophole, buy this T-shirt and you get this. That's kind of the reason why they're making the gift regulation. If with no regulations or only an age restriction and maybe possession, the thing is if there is one form of regulation, there's got to be another form. There's got to be two sides to the coin. Big corporations have to get something out of it so the little guy can do something. And if the little guy wants more, then the big guy is going to be mad. And unfortunately, that's kind of life. But I feel like if anything, it should be the business aspect should be regulated. I feel like the retail side should be at least, maybe an age restriction, but that's it. Like this whole 1 ounce minimum or 1 ounce max and everything over the 1 ounce is bad. That's dumb. But again, what's to stop somebody from coming in twice? I mean, yes, there's probably, the thing about it as well is if it's recreational, there's going to be a hell of a lot more dispensaries. There's probably going to be big chains of dispensaries, unfortunately. Like, I don't know if this is across the entire state, but Valley Dairy. Do you have a Valley Dairy over there? Oh. We have there's like 6 different locations in Grand Forks, Valley Dairy, everywhere. Holiday gas station is the same thing, but they're national. There's probably going to be like retail cannabis in Valley Dairies, and they're going to be kind of a big player. Like Hugo's as well. I mean, it's not going to be in Hugo's, but Hugo's liquor, possibly. But yeah, Let's see. North Dakotans love freedom, personal growing, or of cannabis included. Oh yeah, okay. I find it very hypocritical that there is no problem with me running around with a concealed. We got to that one. I urge you to add an amendment for some type of home cultivation. Yeah. I urge you to add an amendment for some type of home cultivation, 1 plant per private residence at the very least. Home grow helps with keeping commercial prices reasonable and shown it does not lead to more crime. Very much agree. Would really like to have a little bit of proof there. I feel like that would have been if you only had one choice of a source to use in your statement, I wish it would have been that one. Because the first one is just the morality of it. I mean, 1 plant per private residence, that's kind of pleading. But, I mean, 1 plant per private residence, yeah. I feel like there might be a conversation about that to be had. But I feel like it would probably start more at 6 plants and then go down to probably 3. Home grow helps with keeping commercial prices reasonable and shown it does not lead to more crime. 18 states allow home cultivation, and not one state has ever introduced legislation to repeal or scale back on home growing. There is concern for pricing. We know medical cannabis is very expensive at $440 an ounce plus tax. That's the reason why that home growing would be very helpful. At the same time, if everybody is selling it at $440 an ounce, if it goes recreational, that opens anybody up for charging less. It's not like there's going to be a requirement for how much an ounce. That would be very far regulation. Just because I remember we just talked about regulation, but there shouldn't be like, this is the minimum and this is the max that you can charge. I feel like, I'm not 100% sure, but I think alcohol has that type of a thing, but I know it's a very broad one. Like, you can't sell a liter of vodka for $1 or something, because that would just be kind of like giving it away. But I think the term is no remuneration, so you get nothing in return, you just pay for the item. There's probably going to be that aspect of it. But if more people are in the business of selling, more people are going to be wanting to get better deals and will be deal shopping, and that price will be slowly pressured to be dropped. So, yeah. What is Illinois' form of legalization? Is Illinois' form of legalization? Because I remember I talked about this a while back ago. As you can see in my search history. Okay. Who can buy 21 or older? Okay. With or without medical card. So this was, they didn't have enough people to license for recreational, so they opened up medicinal shops to being able to sell recreationally, which is kind of what North Dakota is planning on doing. Are the only legal sellers. Oh, so they used in January, beginning mid-2020, Illinois will grant licenses to dozens of new stores. Up to 295 stores could be in operation in Illinois by 2022. So that makes it so that 294 stores would have to sell cannabis for $440 an ounce in order for it to be able to push that 295th store out of the market. But if it's 50-50, then the other 50% are gonna have to lower the price. That's just kind of how business runs. 30 grams, or about an ounce, flower. What I would really like to know when it comes to this, and it's been a year, so it's actually a really good time that we can look at it, which I might do next week. It would actually be really helpful to North Dakota. How many people have gotten busted for more than an ounce? Based on 2020, year 2020, and then based on year 2019 or 2018. Whatever statistic I can find between the two, because that would tell me how many people had a need, that was their normal stock level was an ounce, for instance, and how many afterwards for more than an ounce. That would be an interesting one. It's legal to... Yeah. So it would be like a possession over an ounce type of a charge. It wouldn't be... We wouldn't see... In 2020, we wouldn't see any possession under an ounce, because that's legal. Or 30 grams, which is... Who the fuck sat down and thought 30 grams was an ounce? Like, what? I guess if somebody got a... I suppose. Possession 30 or no penalties, none. Oh, this is from normal. Normal is usually a little bit behind with stuff, so I don't really... Yeah. The limit for concentrate is 5 grams. These guys have concentrate, though, like... I don't know. Cannabis-infused products such as edibles or tinctures. You even have edibles. North Dakota does not. I think you have butter. I think you can buy butter, but you can't buy brownies or something like that. Which is... I'm pretty sure it is. Or maybe you just can't buy it at all. North Dakota Medical. Can of butter would be your concentrate. I think. I don't know. Let me see. Sensory location, state laws. I'm guessing this would be, but they're also planning on changing a lot of this, by the way. There's actually a couple bills that go to affecting medical. A purchase. So in North Dakota, a registered designated caregiver more than 2.5 ounces of dried leaf flowers. So 2.5 ounces versus 1. That makes no sense. Why are they trying to make 1 ounce recreational and 2.5 ounces medical? That would make no sense. Yeah. Yeah, like... Okay, so maybe, yeah, may not possess more than 3 ounces. Yeah. Yeah, so, like, why is there a 1 ounce? Like, no sense. That would be a very interesting question. Okay, not trying to ruin the surprise here. I did reach out to Jason Doctor. I have not gotten an email back. I'm probably not going to get an email back, but that would be a very interesting question to ask. Why is it that way? Like, okay, medical, you have a reason for it, but recreational is because you, more than likely, at one point or another, whether or not it's for enjoyment or for medical purposes, medically, if your choices were, if Tylenol, for instance, was just as strong as hydrocodone, and you had the choice of paying let's say you have no insurance, paying $380 to see a doctor to get a pill bottle that says that you can have it versus just going to a drugstore and buying the over-the-counter form of it, you would probably pick the cheaper option. So there's going to be people who have anxiety, depression issues, maybe don't even want to talk to their doctor about, cannabis, because they might lose, like if you're going through cancer or chemotherapy or any kind of pain or anything like that, and you're getting pain pills, and you could lose those if you ask them for cannabis, because they work differently. You would probably pick the over-the-counter form of it, but that then throws the option of the drug test into it. But still, like, there will be people who need it for medicinal purposes, don't have access to a doctor that would prescribe it, or are not, or like can't afford it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Hey. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, so it's basically $4.40 an ounce plus tax. Yeah. It was like, because it was like more potent. Do they have like edibles? Like, you can't buy edibles in North Dakota, right? Am I wrong here? Yeah. Concentrate. Yeah. Yeah, I probably would choose flour over that, but just because it's... No, don't show the... That's gonna get me, the channel will never get pushed ever again. But, so, your choices, I mean, you're in a more, well, I guess Jamestown is a major-ish city. Your choices, you have only one dispensary in your area. I'm betting if there was more that opened up, though, it would probably be a little bit cheaper. Some guy would probably be like, well, I can give it to you for $3.50. Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, that's another one. I actually, I forgot when it was. Last weekend, I went to like a gas station at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was very obvious what I was doing. And the the gas station attendant, because it's 4 o'clock in the morning. What the fuck else is anybody doing on a Friday night? Obviously, you're either drunk or you're high. He was like, yeah, I thought about getting my own card, but I don't want to give up my gun. And I was like, well, there you go. So, like, that's another one. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, like, so I can understand not being on the list type of a thing. But I feel like there's probably, I'm sorry, but both sides, Republicans and Democrats, it doesn't matter which side, they want to have some sort of control over your gun. It's either they want to make it very easy or they want to make it very hard. But at one point or another, if we're looking at the regulation aspect of things, they want to have some sort of control over it. Yeah. Yeah. No. They just want to make it more it's not fair as much as they want to make sure it doesn't, like, go into somebody's hands that would use it on themselves or on somebody else for no reason. Beto O'Rourke? I need to look at his picture to know who he is. This guy was just like, I don't want to be president anymore. Yeah. He's from Texas. What the fuck? Yeah. 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 But how are you going to even do that, like, logistically? Essentially, you're just going to make... Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. And the thing is it's not physically possible to actually be able to do that. Like, the only thing making guns illegal would do, and I think that's what everybody is understanding of, unless you're a crazy person like Beto O'Rourke, is essentially if you're going to take everybody's access to guns, that means you have to get it out of the crazy people's hands. Or you're just going to give the crazy people access to those guns. You're not going to be able to do that. You know? Yeah. Right. Yeah. 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 Right. But like that's the thing, and that's the reason why recreational is going to be so successful. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you go, you still get it. You still have like better access to different weapons, I think, right? Or you have to actually like serve. Oh. Yeah, but you have better like a citizen can't, at least I don't know. I don't really own guns because I'm a felon. Um, but a citizen can't like. Oh, really? Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking about. Right. Constitutional carry is you can do conceal carry and you don't need to tell anybody, or you don't need a permit. Yeah. Right. Yeah, you don't even need to get like a license or let anybody know. Yep. Yep. That's the problem with without a permit having, if you wanted people to have like a class, you would either have to do that class at time of purchase, or you would have to have some sort of way to tell that they've taken the class, which would be a permit. But I don't know, like the gun issue I'm not like super knowledgeable of, because yeah, literally age 18 first felony, so I never even had the opportunity. Yep. Yeah. I think it's That's, yeah. 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 Yep. They also, okay. Yes. But insurance, on the other hand, I kind of agree with. Insurance is essentially like a it's like a personal property insurance type of a thing, where like if you end up killing somebody and it's not legal, you at least have coverage to the family. It's like accidental discharge into like a wall. Insurance would cover that type of a repair, stuff like that, where it's like you have some sort of responsibility, and for that responsibility you have to kind of like pay for that. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah. And as far as me be wrong, again, that was an opinion. And uh um to poor people who own guns, do you know what the price of guns are? No, I'm responding to this guy. Yeah. Guns aren't cheap. If you're, yeah. Eminem taught you an opinion can be wrong. In his opinion, yeah, it's something they get. It's something that they get handed down. However, at the same time, the if you, okay, fixing drywall is one thing. That's $40. All right, that was a example. I didn't want to say if you kill someone, what do you think that family is going to do? They're going to take you to court. And if you've never been poor before, you're about to be. If you go to court civilly with somebody that you killed their family member. at that point, then yeah, and at that point, you would have to prove that you had actual reason to kill them. They broke into your house. Okay, you might win that one. You were fucking around drunk and decided to accidentally pull the trigger, and were too drunk and too scared and didn't get help. Yeah. Whether or not you get criminally charged or civilly are two different things. I'm saying if you wield a giant fucking axe and you accidentally hit the wrong tree, someone's gonna be mad you hit their tree. Yeah. 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 Either way. No. Either way, because make sure to hit subscribe and like. And all right. What? All right. We were gonna go into ND freedom. Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about the opinion one? Oh no, no, no. I just know that yeah. Just because I need to fix the chat thing. Next week it'll be much better. I promise. Yeah. So here's a conversation that happened on the ND Cannabis Caucus Facebook. Yeah. All right. I'm not banned. But somebody did get banned. Oh, why didn't it? Oh, I want to zoom in way more. There we go. All right. Oh, it will probably take a while. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of have a little bit of something to say. Go ahead. Yeah. 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 Website runs off Elementor. Domain was bought with the same registrar. Domain is hosted on the same website hosting that we used to use. Posts. Social media posting is kind of the same style, keeping the same branding. Yes. I think I have the screenshot of that still. Yeah. Right. Yeah, it wasn't for bad purposes. I've I still go onto the public page and all that stuff, just to kind of see like where they are. Not like for nefarious purposes or to talk shit. Quite honestly, I wasn't even planning on doing something about them until this, to be honest. But so Anthony went on and he says, what's the game plan if HB 1420 passes? One of the greatest failures of this group was, at least when I was involved, lack of organization and leadership. If the House bill passes, there's an entirely new problem of convincing the masses that only care about what keeps them out of jail, that more effort is needed in order to make what'll already be illegal to them even more so. The differences between the bill is, 1 ounce and home grow. Plus, this is the 3rd year in a row, so support will already be down. This isn't to be a jerk. He even prefaces it with, this isn't to be a jerk. These are legitimate questions I have all the time, and I really do hope someone is actually planning and organizing for these types of variables. Which is a very, very valuable or valid question and very well explained. Like, that's the thing. So then it goes on to, Gail was like, continuing on with the constitutional amendment. So yeah, it's very important to say that the difference between 1420 and legalize ND, or not legalize ND is 1420 essentially, but the difference between 1420 and North Dakota Freedom of Cannabis Act would be homegrown North Dakota Cannabis Act. The limitation is not stated because it's a constitutional thing. It could become a 1 ounce limit if it has a law passed under it. The way that the licensing occurs is in the constitutional amendment rather than in, I think it was like dispensaries selling recreationally, and that was it. But that's not to say that there would be more dispensaries after it passes. But really, essentially, what happened last year, this time again, but a little bit more spaced apart differently. But it has the same points to it, and it's a constitutional measure. So you can't just throw 1 ounce limit into there. You can throw like a grow limit. You could technically throw a possession limit, but like this is a constitutional part, and this law is statutory. But if a statutory law passes, everybody already kind of can possess. So the only people you would be selling, essentially, you would be selling on saying yes to, if it goes on a ballot, would be people who would be interested in growing. Because that essentially is the mainstay there. And I gave the answer of how you should attack that in that last paragraph. Do that next time. essentially. But Gail Peterson, who, by the way, she's a nurse. She's super awesome. No shit at her whatsoever. I'm just saying that she's the one who applied. And then he goes on, but how though? What are the actual goals to get there? Are there any, or is this still it is what it is? I'm hoping for the best. That's what I'm asking. Is this still taking people's time and money without any real plan? And trying to group people without any real utilization of them or resources available? I ask because this is kind of like a rinse and repeat kind of thing. And this was under Jody's post. Here it is. Just double check there's nothing like that would get us killed here. And this was under Jody's post, just to make sure to highlight that. And this is what Jody's post looks like now. So this is her talking about the Minnesota legalization bill. These are I don't give a shit. I got alts on top of alts. I don't give a fuck. You're a public group. Literally, all of this is public. You decided to be public group. Get over it. But now it says it's 13 comments. A lot of them are hidden. I'm guessing what ended up happening was banned Anthony or deleted comment from Anthony, left the thread running, and people are just kind of dunking. I don't know if you want to show the next one. The one right below that one. It's up to you. That one's the DMs. So this was just to make sure it's fair, because I need to double check that. Oh shit! Okay. I hope you said. All right. This was, I think it was on a Wednesday, so this is when the actual hearing was going on. So like she was there. We literally read her thing, so she was there. But yeah, so because I accidentally showed it. Do you want to show it or no? I did not mean to do that. Okay. I don't know. It's people's DMs. It's just, thing. Yeah. So yeah. Basically, she kind of was like, I didn't know it got deleted. She's a chair, so she should probably know about things like that. At this point. Yeah. Literally on the front page. And also, just gotta say, bagging a marijuana moment, getting decent ass statements out and stuff like that, that's way better than last year. Yeah, totally gotta throw that one out there. It's much better. Yeah. 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 And they're the ones that they contact. If they oh, I didn't mean to hit that tab. If there is a story, if something big happens, good or bad, and they want to get the input of somebody in cannabis legalization, for instance, or cannabis just in general, and they decide to go the legalization route, she would be the first person they'd contact. That and David Owens, because Legalize ND. That's basically it. Those are your two options here. If they're going for a dispensary angle, then yeah, they would contact probably what's the name? The ones with really, really bad grow ops, seeds and blue shit. I don't remember. Herbology, yep. But yeah, so yeah, I'm just hoping things get better there. That was my question is, do you guys, well, that was my question to them is, what is the plan? Because believe it or not, no matter which way it goes, people will talk about it. And I'm not going to say that I 100% will, but I probably will, whether it goes good or bad. So. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of people saying it's already legal, though. Yeah. I mean, if it... Yeah. This should just shut down criticism. Yeah. 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 I mean, just to even prove that point, if I type in North Dakota... Oh, I should do this in a private window. That way my cookies don't influence this. North Dakota Cannabis Caucus. Oh, I can't even spell. Okay. North Dakota Cannabis Caucus. This is what happens when you're searching. Yeah. So, like, this hasn't caught up yet. This was, like, the biggest issue with the website. This is, SEO spam is what we call that. But, yeah. Your Facebook page... Oh, Canna-Talk actually shows up first. Cool. That's actually awesome. Shout out to us. Didn't even try that. No, but... Yeah, no, but, like, when it comes to... Here's what's gonna happen. Okay. Here's how this works. You get signatures. Okay. You submit those signatures. And then from the time you submit to the next election, you have to get people to vote yes. They're not going to just vote yes because they signed. Most of them probably won't even remember. So, you're going to have to be very, very social and very, very networky and get people out to vote yes. if they already have the freedom that they were looking for, what you need to have them do is you need to have them vote yes for everyone else. They might get it. They might be like, look, I can own an ounce. I mean, it sucks. It's whatever. But hey, at least I'm happy. Whatever. I can just, chill. Yeah. But what they also have to, what you also have to get people on board of is if home grow isn't a thing, how is that going to affect the person who isn't going to jail? And that is price, that is availability, and that is quality. Those are going to be your three main ones. Better quality, because home grows, people have a little bit more time, and because they're doing it on a smaller scale, they have a little bit more money for nutrients and things like that. Price, because home grow, it's on a smaller scale again, so it's going to cost less because a fluorescent light is usually what most people with home grow do. They don't go with HPS bulb, is what I'm saying. A fluorescent light or an LED light with a certain shade, cheap. The upkeep is cheap too. Like filtration. Well, I guess if it's home grow is legal, then filtration isn't a thing because you don't really need to care. But yeah, quality would be better, and also availability. And all you have to say is, here's the story of what happened in Fargo. Here is how people managed. This was in the middle of a pandemic. There you go. Those are your 3 points that you're going to have to push. This question was posed before those questions were asked. Once you guys had submitted and gotten those signatures, you were going to get a shitload of more people asking that exact same question. Why do I need to care? 1/4/20 is going to be legal at the beginning of the year. It literally said in there. Yeah. 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 Or just get kind of fed up with it. Another thing with it too is when it comes to like hate on social media or anything like that, just let them talk. If you're getting like some sort of bullshit from people, just let them talk. That's pretty much all they want. They're looking for, and you weren't hating either, by the way, but the act of deleting is essentially validating their entire fear and the reason why they commented. But yeah, that's the thing. When it comes to that aspect of it, people on they still do. I don't manage that page, but one of the biggest things on that page was people were just like, oh, you're just posting memes, blah, blah, blah. You guys are supposed to be super, super serial. And like, they didn't realize it was like half serious, half meme to really get the people involved type of a thing. Liking something is just as good as commenting on something on Facebook. So engagement just in general is helpful for the spread of the page. And that's why memes are good. But the point is, people would be like, oh, you're not taking it seriously, blah, blah, blah. And very rarely, I mean, at least I barely did much actions on the page, but very rarely did I actually delete any comments. I just kind of replied with some facts and logic, and I moved on. Spam. I remember one guy, and he still is to this day, like, under alt accounts, and it's hilarious to see, but under alt accounts, spams, like, any North Dakota cannabis groups. Like, literally just words. Just fucking words. If it was gonna get us zucked. If it was gonna get reported. Yeah. 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 You're still banned though, right? Okay, so we're not just like throwing shit for nothing. Okay. Yeah. I wonder if they have their analytics public. I'm trying to see if they have their analytics public. To play, yeah, because you want to play politician. Yeah. There's like just literally yesterday, because I was like looking for something in my desk, and just quite literally yesterday there was I mean, I paid for it, but still, I'm sure it wasn't free, and I'm sure they might have even pocketed the cost of like 300 or so pins, and I know I paid for this one. Bunch of envelopes, a bunch of ink, paper, like 50 packets. And they weren't like 1-page packets or anything. They were 4 pages, or maybe they were 5 pages, but yeah, they were like like packaged, and everything was ready for like to mail out. I mean, like, while Bluehost was probably cheaper when it comes to that type of aspect, that A, that costs money, but B, the word cannabis is like usually not cool on shared hosting providers, and is usually the target of a lot of attacks. And that's the reason why we went to the VPS. VPS costs money, and actually us, because we're using a cheaper company. But like going to Linode, for instance, or AWS, and I know this myself personally as somebody who had to pay like a $300 bill from AWS, for a restream server. It costs a lot of money. Everybody else on top of that, people were donating a lot of their time. If you want to know exactly how much everything costs, or at least to the state of North Dakota, Dakota. I literally just said Dagorda. Dakota. Yeah. Their website has gotten so much faster. Maybe it's because I have faster internet, but no, like, okay, today I was looking at Idaho because I wanted to see, you know, that guy that did that bill and stuff like that. Nope, that's not where I need to be. The guy that did the bill to like make the first story that we were doing. I was looking on their website. It was literally snail's pace. It literally took like 5 minutes to load, like a page. 2020. So I'm just gonna go with. There's addresses on here. I don't really want to throw one too. Oh, actually no. They'll be fine. Committee name. Going for that one. Yeah. I'm going to go with this one. Just want to make sure that whose address is on as far as for me. All right. So, year end of 2020. This is for people who donated more than $200 in time and money. $5,967. That was the end of 2020. 2019, $48,000. Well, I mean, she did the okay. Probably something. Merch and just everything else that I did. That was just like this was in kind, I think is what they call it, like time and effort. I'm sure this was probably like registration fees, and this was probably time and stuff. This was like that. Yeah, they're all in kind. So this was time. And I'm sure some of this was like merch and stuff. Yeah. Nope, they haven't filed yet for this year. They don't have to. No. Ended up getting wasted. Yeah. And that's the thing is, yes, okay, time and effort and all that stuff is free to the person. But at some point you have to realize that while nobody is doing this to make money, that time could have also been placed to making money. But like this. Yeah. Well, I can tell you where it's going right now. What was their website? Oh, this one. I think. Yeah. By the way, 500 megabit down, 30 up, and it took like 3 seconds to load. Say I want to donate. Yeah. Why is this not a PNG? This looked so much better when I first looked at it. Video placer. Okay, here we go. All right, say I want to donate. All right. Single donations. All right, yeah, I'd like to donate a single time. I definitely don't want to pay $4.20 a month. Real ND News. Is that where that goes? Because, these are other people that support it, but, pretty sure there's more than that for a pack that's supporting it. Yeah. Trademarks are not a website property. So as a result, what you're talking about is a copyright. Oh, yeah. 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 We've been going for 2 hours and 17 minutes. But, by the way, this is the makeup for, yeah, the last few weeks that I've, yeah. I don't know, I think it's been, yeah, because last week we skipped, so I didn't feel like doing it. Yeah, I'm going to take full credit for that, by the way. Yeah, I just didn't. First of all, there wasn't that much to talk about, and second of all, yeah, life is hard. But yeah, that's all we have. If you like this video, make sure to share it. If you like this show and want more, subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the like button, or listen online at radiofreefargo.org. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson on 95.9 Radio Free Fargo every Thursday from 4 to 5 p.m. If you're not in the Fargo-Moorhead area, the same day, about an hour later, it goes on podcasting platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you want any of the other links, it's in the description down below. I have to say that because that's a YouTube thing to say. Yeah. Throw them in the comments. I am very, very, I have the app on my phone, is essentially what I'm trying to say. So if somebody, like, comments, I can usually comment back, like, right away. So unless it's, like, at 5 o'clock in the morning, then, well, you'll probably get one when everybody else is normally awake. But, yeah, so, comment down below. Yeah, and if you're not in the Fargo-Moorhead area, again, podcasting platforms, and it also goes on this channel, yeah, with some cool pictures and stuff like that, so it's kind of cool. But my name is Phil, and this has been Cannaheads. We'll see you guys, I don't really want to say next week, because I really don't like promising things and not delivering. We'll see you guys next time. So, all right, bye.
So
Well,
what
thanks for
happened?
having me on.
What happened with your Twitter account and the company page?
Well, first mine was taken down because we have all the election fraud.
Never lay down, never give up.